What's up, guys? How are you all doing? After several days out at North Park, where I did a mixture of throwing and quite a bit of coaching, actually, I'm back where it all began, in the crazy super lab, where I now have 2 layers of netting. The old net has been retired, essentially. It has 2 holes right in the upper left-hand corners of the little catching area. The new net is still fairly pristine, although not for much longer, I think. And today I want to talk about something that I've been needing to do for quite some time. If you've been watching the channel, I'm sure you've noticed that starting around February, March, April, I started filming avidly in here. I was filming before then, but I started producing content based on here, in here based on things that I had figured out along the way. And I was doing my best to communicate quite a bit of the understanding in my own body to the audience so that they could also feel it. Because fundamentally, the method system is a system that traffics in feel. When I'm learning something novel in my body and I go, wow, I had a light bulb moment. This is something that I did to get a specific feel. I love to communicate it to the audience because we all fundamentally, despite the fact that we have different proportions and ages and strength, we all kind of feel a lot of the kinesthetic mechanics of the disc golf backhand the same way. So when I find something novel, I can communicate it to the audience, and then maybe if they essentially copy the specific thing that I'm doing, they might be able to feel it as well. At its heart, that's what the method system is. It's teaching that initial feel of the brace and then layering infinitely on top of that until you have really accomplished backhand form. So I was going nuts for March, April, May, throwing in here like crazy. Didn't have an opportunity to get outside. I live in Seattle. The weather here is doldrums really until probably mid to late June. A lot of people tolerate the bad weather. I don't really like disc golf when everything is wet and cold, so I kind of hung out in here and did a lot of mechanics that fundamentally trained my lower body to be amazingly balanced and fluid and linear in my footwork. And more importantly, I trained my body to activate my right quad in an extremely powerful way to throw the disc for me. You see it right there. If I stride over and I land in this powerful, balanced position, I feel what is I can only call instep pressure on both sides of my feet. You notice that striding to the right with this footwork, I land in this beautiful braced position that you see endemic to the form of the longest throwers in the game, people like Will Schusterick, Eagle McMahon. You see this internal compression of both knees. And the way that they're producing that is that they are striding forward and producing instep leverage, is what Lee calls it. Instep leverage. The feeling of pressure on the inside of your trailing foot that allows you to push off and drive into the ground. And when you drive in a completely linear way and you control your center of mass, as you can learn when you go very slowly and methodical, it gives you this incredible, almost dancer-like mobility down the tee pad where you can keep your head forward the whole time, churning forward, and it looks so rhythmic and flowing. It's gorgeous form, and of course it forms the balanced frame, the basis of all of the upper body mechanics. But here's the thing, is that my focus on the lower body had actually taken me away from the proper upper body mechanics. I had learned them a long time ago in my, like 16 or 17 years that I spent toiling and working on my backhand form, running backwards down the tee pad and hurling my body. I learned how to throw very powerfully with my upper body because it was the only thing driving the throw. But then when I started relearning the lower body mechanics and I started actually really understanding them and getting a ton of force production off the ground, I was still practicing throwing the leverage of my arm. I actually made a video about that exact topic a little while ago. And the thing is that when I would throw with the weight of my arm, swinging my arm incredibly fast out here to essentially throw the phantom disc for me, my body was instinctively engaging in what I could call neuroprotective behavior. It was changing the alignment of my swing in order to protect my arm, to keep me from breaking my elbow when I threw my arm super hard with this increasingly, alarmingly powerful lower body mechanics, where I got to the point where I was like causing this surface to buckle and warp when I landed on it because I was producing so much stomping sideways ground force. My body was protecting my right arm during my swing. So I would throw the disc seemingly very powerfully into the net. I would freak out about it. I'd go, man, that's so loud. It's so kinetic. And yet when I looked at the footage in slow-mo, my arm never got into the like classic crazy ass, Wiggins, Albert Tam, Christian Quoksa pose. Never looked like this ever. It was always like this. My arm was always up during the swing. I was like pulling the disc like this during my swing. Why was that happening? And there are actually two reasons for it. One of them was that I had learned to pull the disc around my trailing shoulder because my old rotational form required me to throw to the right. So I had to pull the disc around my body and then flatten it out. So it would go like this. So it was a little bit of a relic from that. But the other reason, the real killer reason, is that when I was pulling the disc like this with my hand above my elbow, this is not a biomechanically powerful position, but it is very protective of the ligaments and tendons and the joint of your throwing elbow. So my body had acclimated to throwing like this in order to protect my arm during the dry throws. I had to relearn that over the last couple of months. I owe a huge debt to my friend Clint, who lives up in North Bend. His channel, I've talked about it before, Blitz DG. Check it out if you haven't seen it. The guy is super amazing, and he is a freak of nature. Holy shit, is he incredibly strong. Taller than me, probably 200 pounds of chiseled muscle with the ability to like deadlift 650 pounds, and he's an explosive power lifter too. It's not just static strength. And Clint understands the upper body better than I think just about anyone in the sport. He can throw a consistent standstill over 70 miles an hour using almost entirely his upper body to propel it. I'm not anywhere near as strong as Clint. Most people, honestly, almost nobody is as strong as Clint. So some of us have to actually rely a little bit more on ground force production, balancing the two things. So I was sort of like the opposite of Clint in this way. I had tremendous ground force, crazy stability and balance. I could bomb the disc just thinking about landing and standing up hard on my right leg while I compressed. And it looked good, but as soon as the disc started to swing, it looked like garbage again. I would look at it in slow-mo and my head would be in the wrong place. And I was pulling the disc around my body to feel powerful, all the way around, reaching to here, extending my shoulders to here, coming in, pulling the disc around my body and throwing it to the right in a big circle or a big arc. And the thing is that while an arc can be powerful, it can be very energetic, it's not fast because the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. And if you're not throwing in a straight line, any sideways turn that you introduce to the disc, even as you're pulling it through, the power pocket through leverage, the disc still needs to be linear and online. Anytime you deviate from that, you're exerting less power using all of the pulling mechanisms in your arm and your core and so on, and even from the leg. So I was throwing these discs that were incredibly energetic. They were smashing in the net, literally piercing through the net and stuff, but it wasn't translating to distance on the course. I'm like, what's going on? And when I would throw the disc felt so weirdly unwieldy to me. It felt like I expressed it as a heavy object. And of course, it's always going to feel heavy when you tug on and accelerate it quickly, but it felt more than heavy. It felt unwieldy. It felt unmanageable. It was like this thing that was just like I was struggling to contain, and I never really knew where it was going to come out. Clint figured it out right away as soon as he saw me throw. I did some net throwing alongside Nick Crush, another super cool dude who had flown in from Florida where he lives. And immediately both of them spotted this. I was showing them my form in front of them. They're like, dude, your swing is broken. Your swing is going around your body rather than linear. And of course, I had observed that in my videos, but the 100% laser focus on the lower body and force production had made part of that deficit kind of veiled to me, to Lee, to other people that looked at it. They spotted it instantly. And so I spent the last couple of months course correcting that. In the next video, I'm going to make another one after this. I'm going to demonstrate what I hope is the fusion of my beautiful balanced lower body mechanics alongside this new linear, very specific force production that I've learned over the last couple of months, where I am going to keep my head steady and swing the disc through leverage out here while keeping my head steady with the additional focus of keeping the left arm back and, more importantly, beginning this sequential swing with the method, with the right quad and the compression of the left side at the same time, then driving hard with the arm and focusing on keeping everything flat and linear. I don't know how it's going to go. Hopefully it'll go well, and I will finally get the closest thing that I've ever had in my biomechanics to the perfect pro form. Stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching. Coming up.